Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Carolyn Westerman, and I'm from the admission office at Villanova. And we are so excited to welcome you to our parent panel tonight. First of all, we'd like to congratulate your children on admission to Villanova. This was our most competitive year, both in terms of quality and quantity, in my 28 years of Villanova that I've seen. And a congratulations goes to you as well for your part in that. We'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the Villanova community. We know that when you entrust your children to us, we take that trust very seriously. It's a sacred trust. We know that if they decide to come to Villanova for the next 4 years, we are their parents in place. We're there to care for them and to guide them and to push them and to encourage them and occasionally adjust those attitudes or even help them when they fail. But we are there for them, and we wanted to take this time to talk to you about our experiences as parents and to answer your questions and alleviate your concerns. So I've gathered a few of my friends from around Villanova who are also Villanova parents to answer those questions for you. So Kathy, why don't we start with you, and you can tell us about your role at Villanova and about Emily.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here tonight. My name is Kathy Gallagher. I believe it or not, have been at Villanova for 27 years. This will be my 28th incoming new students in August. So I'm so excited about this. I'm the director of what's called the Wildcard, which is the university campus card. Your Wildcard will be your students' key to Villanova. Everything from their meal plan to their student ID, their card that you're going to put money on, which is called Nova Bucks, where they're going to do their laundry. Yes, don't send quarters. Everything's done with Nova Bucks, no quarters for graduation presents. They're also going to use this card as their meal plan and also use it for any special events around campus. Besides being at Villanova for 27 years, going on 28 years, I have 3 children. I have twin boys. I'm a grandmom. My boys are 33, but then I also, yes, have a 20-year-old. Emily is a sophomore, and from the day that she could talk, her dream was to come to Villanova. Emily applied to many schools, got accepted, but her heart was at Villanova. And that day that she opened up that laptop and saw Father Peter say, "You're going to Villanova," had to be the happiest day of our lives. Emily is a sophomore. She is in the nursing program at Villanova and absolutely loves it. She is very involved, even though the studies, she studies a lot, but she still has a lot of time to be involved. And I have to read this because I really don't know what she does around campus. She puts it when she needs money. Otherwise, that's all I get to see her. Emily's involved with Villanova chapter of Operation Smile, which is spread awareness and financial support for cleft plate. She's in the SNAP program, which is the Student Nurses Association of Pennsylvania. She's involved in the National Student Nurses Association. She plays club volleyball, which she absolutely loves. And hopefully with COVID, club sports will come right back again. She's on Nova Dance, which is kind of similar to Penn State's Thon, but it's Villanova's version of it. She is in Kappa Delta sorority, and she's also in Villanova Special Olympics. And I want to tell you, if she could do more, she would do more, and is loving every minute of it. And she does live on campus. And that's my Emily.
That's great. Dave, how about you?
I'm still shocked that you invited me back from last year. So I'm Dave Deinhart. I've only been here 23 years. I am a professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering department. You can see my fun lab behind me. I am a structural engineer, so I get to build and break things and teach our students about it. I've taught everything from intro freshman classes to upper level graduate courses. I love every level. I advise students. I'm the student advisor for a club called Novocaine, which is Community Action by New Engineers, and we focus on reaching out to programs that don't have strong STEM programs in middle schools, and we help support it. As you can imagine, in a COVID environment, we are all virtual this year, which has been a fun transition. I have 2 Villanova students. I have a son, Matt, who officially graduated during COVID last year, and he was a major in communications. He is actually doing a 5-year program to get his master's degree in communications. He did a summer business institute at Villanova after his freshman year, where he could get a minor in business in the summer, and actually being credits ahead, that allowed him to pursue the 5-year program as well. He was, I think, destined to be at Villanova. He was drinking the Augustinian Kool-Aid from his high school years. So he was kind of hardwired to Villanova and has loved every minute. Very involved with service learning community, liturgical council, a lot of the Catholic men's groups on campus. His sister, Abby, is a junior. She was, I think, from the moment she could talk, told me she was not going to Villanova. And as luck would have it, once she went and looked at every place and saw all the many great options, she shocked her father and came to Villanova. She's a junior psychology major, minors in counseling and communications. She's president of the Villanova Dance Company, very active in the arts, and she did a summer abroad in Ireland, which was part course, part internship, which was fantastic. She's currently applied to the 5-year program in human resources at Villanova, and she's working part-time at dining services. And for those of you with special needs kids, in terms of my son was or is dyslexic, and Abby has celiac, so we can navigate some of that for you through your questions if you have them.
That's great. Thanks, Dave. Corie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Corie Alicia, and this is actually my first time on this panel, and I'm so excited to have been invited because one of my favorite subjects to talk about is Villanova University. I am myself an alum. I graduated in 1996 from what's now known as the Villanova School of Business, and I'm on staff at the College of Professional Studies, where I work as a program coordinator for professional programs, which mostly serves postgraduate students who are looking for certificate programs and courses to just help advance their careers or sometimes change their careers. What else can I tell you? I have 3 children. My oldest son, Isaiah, he went to Villanova. He graduated in 2019. After being there for 4 years, he graduated with a degree in sociology. And like Dave's son, he actually was able to take part of a 5-year program. So actually December of 2020, so just a couple of months ago, he was able to get his master's degree in public administration. While he was on campus as an undergrad at Villanova, he was able to walk on to the football team. So he spent 4 years as a student athlete and really had an amazing time representing the university as an athlete. He's got really a lot of wonderful connections that he's still in contact with now, and really enjoyed his time at Villanova. My second child, my daughter Lily, we also have this in common, Dave. She did not want to go to Villanova, not because she didn't love it, but because she wanted to go out into the world and try something different. So she did. She went to another university, and it didn't work out for her. So she came home and she transferred to Villanova, and she's been with us for the past year. So she did her sophomore, and now she's a junior, studying global and interdisciplinary, that's her major, global and interdisciplinary studies. And her focus is on Chinese language and culture. What else? It is a pretty robust course load for her. She spends a lot of time studying and working with that, but she really, really enjoys it. And she also, in the past year that she's been at Villanova, she joined the cheerleading team. So that's between her coursework and cheerleading, she's pretty busy. And then my third child, he goes to another university, but that's okay. Maybe he'll transfer. He's a freshman, so we'll see.
We'll see. We hope he's happy.
He is happy.
Again, exactly. But again, and everybody, my name's Carolyn. I'm from the admission office. I graduated from Villanova in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences in 1992, and I've been at Villanova every year since. So I am in my 28th year of working at Villanova. I am the mom of Thomas, who graduated in 2019. Thomas was a computing science major, eventually, with a philosophy and East Asian studies minor. He started off as cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. That lasted about a semester. He retooled and then went to computer science, so that's not unusual. And his freshman year, he was involved with our Communitas program, which was the leadership learning community at the time. And later, he became a learning community facilitator, where as an upper class student, he met with the students in the learning communities in their smaller groups with their facilitator, who is a faculty or staff member. He was a peer tutor in the math department and in the computer science department. He was involved with Special Olympics. He was a member of the Blue Key Society, which if you've ever taken a tour of Villanova or been welcome to Villanova or done any of our online presentations, you've seen our members of Blue Key. And his most favorite thing, the thing he was most known for at Villanova, was he was one of the student managers of the Connolly Center. The thing he the most. He loved our student center and loved working there and everybody that worked there as well. So that's who we are and that's who our children are. And I see that your questions are coming in. So I'm just going to go in and start looking at them. From what I've seen so far, most of your questions are asking us about plans for the future with COVID. And truthfully, the answer is right now, we just don't know. Right now, our students are on campus. They were on campus entirely for the fall. About 60% of our classes are still being held in person. Some of them have hybrid options or flex options, but our students have been on campus and it's our goal to keep them there. We have really asked our students to be part of our Caritas commitment. Villanova's motto is Veritas Unitas Caritas, which means truth, unity, and love. And we've really taken the tone and tenor that we're doing this to protect each other. And we're asking them to follow all the rules, and they have been doing a phenomenal job in keeping each other and themselves safe. But as far as what's going to happen in the fall, we just don't know yet. The best thing to do is to keep up on our website, and once we know things, we will tell you for sure. And Dave, you opened this door, and I should have also mentioned Thomas has severe food allergies as well, but we have a bunch of questions about food allergies. So do you want to start with Abby and her experience with celiac?
Sure. She was actually diagnosed after she started at Villanova. And so it just turned out that it was one of those deals, any parent who's gone through it, right? So we finally figured out what it was. And then it was like, oh, wow, does Villanova accommodate or can they accommodate this? And the answer overwhelmingly was yes. So not only from all of the dining halls and the different food options they have and how things are prepped, and she's a very severe case, but also what I had no idea about was the housing, that they really are, Villanova will look at those needs for those students. And if you're, I believe it's sophomore or above, they will accommodate you with a kitchen. So they set aside rooms for your children so that you can be in an environment where you can cook for yourselves when you have severe food allergies. But she's had no problems.
I'm going to jump in here. Dining Services has dietitians on hand, and they strongly encourage the students to come in, make an appointment with one of the dietitians, sit down, talk about what your student's needs is. Is it a peanut allergy? Is it celiac? Is it another kind of allergy? And Dining Services works very, very closely with that student. And even if they have to prepare special food for that student, they will do that. I do know that for the gluten allergies in the dining halls, there's special refrigerators that will have food in it that's, for students to grab, that they know if they have some special allergies. And also if you have any special dietary preferences, Villanova is really very good in our dining halls about having the options. I happen to have a daughter who is so darn picky. It is not even funny. And that was my greatest fear when she went to school. Will she find mac and cheese that she likes because mom makes crafts? Believe it or not, she loves the food at Villanova, and the options are there for every kind of palate, from being a vegetarian to a gluten allergy. Our dining services really works very, very hard. And our dining service is actually self-opt. It's actually run by Villanova University. It's not run by a third party.
Great. And just so everybody else knows, because there were a couple questions, my son is allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. And in all of the dining halls, they are peanut and tree nut free, with the exception of there are packets of peanut butter and soy nut butter and cashew and almond butter that students can take. But all of the actual cooking area is completely peanut and tree nut free. So it's very safe in the environment for those students as well. Now we have another question about, can we talk about the timeline for selecting and applying for housing and meal plans? So who would like to take that?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So unfortunately, as a freshman, you can't choose what dorm your student is going to live in. Your freshman dorm is selected for you. I know as soon as your student is accepted, I'm sure they're on the official Villanova Facebook page. And please make sure, and I'm sure Carolyn will talk to you a little bit about that, make sure it's the official Villanova page. And they're going to try to find a roommate. They're going to come down and say, I found my roommate. Honestly, the best way to find the roommate is let them go random. They're going to fill out a survey. My daughter thought she had the best roommate picked. And the first week of school, she goes, oh, I should have went random. Because these, your kids will put on this great image to someone they haven't met yet. Let the system work for them. They'll get a questionnaire. All students that are coming in as a freshman, they have to have a meal plan if they're living on campus. And they have a choice of 2 meal plans. One is a 21 meal plan, and the other one is a 15 meal plan, I think it is. And it is mandatory. You do have the first 2 weeks of school to change it if you find that you did sign up. Oh, it's the unlimited. I'm sorry. It's a 21 meal plan and an unlimited meal plan, meaning you can go in and out of the dining hall. You do get to choose what room you want to be in your sophomore, junior, and senior year. But as a freshman, you can't pick what dorm you want your student to be in. So we'll do that for you.
Right. And something to kind of add on to that, I was going to just a couple things, and just to really underline what Kathy just said for our friends in the Office of Residence Life, have them go random. They unequivocally say anecdotally, and it's not just Villanova, but most colleges in the country, the roommate issues and the roommate changes come at a significantly higher rate from those who found each other on social media. Yep. So we really recommend, I was going to say, even though that's a really hard temptation to kind of go into, it's something completely random, but we really, as a public service announcement, really try to encourage your children just to go through the traditional process, because in the end, they'll probably be happier that way. And another thing to talk about is we do have some communitas programs that all freshmen can be part of as well. These are living and learning environments that our students can take part in that are thematic. Every first year student has the option to do it. They have themes like healthy living and arts and culture. Leadership is one of the larger ones. And they'll have their ACS, their Augustine and Culture seminar class, with the students that they live with. So the conversations translate from the classroom to the dining hall to their hallway while they're brushing their teeth. But in the students who have this Communitas program, they actually have an extra 4th hour every week. And that is an opportunity for them to meet with a student life faculty or staff member to talk about the cultural things that are going on in the world, if they're arts and culture, I was going to say, or leadership topics, or healthy living. Guys, help me out. What are the other ones?
It's leadership, healthy living.
There's off the top of my head, about 15 that they can choose from. So I really encourage them to look into that as well. That's a great opportunity for them to do that.
Oh, and they will find out in July where their roommate, who their roommate is. So you'll get all your housing information in July.
Okay, great. I'm going through the questions right now. Okay, so what advice or suggestions do you have for parents that are not Villanova alumni to help us decide if Villanova might be the right choice for you?
Who wants to take that?
Go ahead, Corie.
I would say that sit down with your son or daughter and have a conversation about what they envision their life will be like at college, and try to determine what things are important to them. And then see if you can get a little bit of information about those resources at Villanova. My experience is that you'll find some information that maybe will help you sort of gain a foothold on directions perhaps that you want to help your son and daughter go. There's a lot of information on our website, and I think having them think about those types of things ahead of time maybe can help them. For instance, do they want to get involved with the theater, going to the theater at Villanova, or our culture, as many of you know, has a lot to do with athletics. And, we have more than basketball at Villanova. There are a lot of teams and ways for students to get involved. So even maybe if your child was very active in high school and they're not necessarily going to come to Villanova to be a athlete, there's still a lot of ways for them to get involved and be athletic. And the other thing is, if they are really into something that perhaps you don't find a lot of information out about, I think Villanova is a really good place to start something new. I will never forget, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I noticed there were students who had started a Quidditch club, and having had the opportunity to watch the whole Harry Potter series with my kids, that was really cool to see that kind of come to life on campus. And someone had to think that that was something that they wanted to do, and so they started it. So that's also an option to think about.
Right.
Can I just add one other thing? Villanova is an Augustinian campus, but I'm not Catholic, and neither is my daughter. And so not being Catholic did not hinder what her experience was going to be on our campus. There's all different kind of religions and beliefs, and Emily fit right in. Yes, she took her religion classes, but they weren't I guess one of her classes, it was funny. I had to laugh the title of it. I forget what it was now, but she loved it. Absolutely loved it. So don't let that be like a question in your mind when you're talking to your student about coming to Villanova. Everyone fits in at Villanova. Everyone is welcome at Villanova. No, their religion is.
Right. And I think if you ask any Villanovan, I would say the vast majority of us would say what we love most about Villanova is that there is a sense of community at Villanova. Mm-hmm. And that's really difficult to show our families right now, living in this world where so many of the things that we would normally do, and being able to kind of welcome you to our campus with open arms is something that we wish we could do, but we just can't for the time being. There have been many questions about that. We don't know when we're going to be able to offer campus tours again. We're hoping to do so for admitted seniors. Probably we'll be limiting it to later in the spring. But we do have a lot of virtual events, and I think you can reach out, participate in those. On February 27th, we're having a program called Connect a Cat. You probably got an email today, I know your children did as well, about an opportunity for your students to meet in small groups with similar interests with students of our Blue Key Society. So I think asking really deep questions about the culture of a place, what makes those places special. I honestly think how colleges have been handling COVID in general, the tone and tenor of their message is something as a parent that I would look for. That is it. My son goes to a school, my youngest son, I was going to say, we still love him too, right, Corie? Even though that they didn't us, he went out to it for athletics for another school. Their model is mask up or go home, and ours is community first. And there's nothing wrong with that motto, but we are always talking about the things that are important to us. Take a deep dive into the mission of the school. Why were they founded? I think you can start understanding the ethos, because so many schools out there are great academic institutions, but you want to be able to try to find this right fit. Just this weekend, I was going over the admissions Instagram page, and we asked students to post, what do you love about Villanova in honor of Valentine's Day? And I really was struck by the last response that I saw is a young woman wrote, I love Villanova because Villanova loves me back. And I think that that really kind of hammers home the ethos of who we are, that we really do care about our students. We care about each other. We want to see them succeed. Dr. Crystal Lucky, who's one of our Associate Deans in Arts and Sciences, she goes, I like to see my students try to fail because you can't do that at Villanova. There'll be so many people here to help you along. And if you do fail, we're going to be there to help you get up again. And I think those things are really important. Dave, we have a question about what online courses look like and how hybrid courses look like and how the students are learning. Are there any that they're expected just to learn everything on their own? But I thought you might be the best person to answer that question.
So let me start by saying it looks a little like this, except that you can see everybody, but I cannot see all 316 of you out there. In my case, I'll give you an example. My fall class met 4 days a week. It was a hybrid format. Typically, there'll be 30 students in a section. So based on the classroom that I had, that meant 15 people were live, and then I had 15 on Zoom. I co-teach the course. The professor and I made the decision that even though we didn't have to attend every class, we said, you know what, this is a perfect format. So one of us was always giving the lecture. The other one was always on Zoom. And then that person could coordinate anything that maybe the person that was live missed. But honestly, for me, it was more of a, okay, I'm looking at the screen over here, and then I've got the people in the room. I'd probably, if you ask the students, I probably asked more questions of the students on Zoom than I did of the ones in the room. And the feedback from the students was that it was a great class. They learned a ton. They did a lot of work. To a person, they wish they could be in class more than they were. But they were in class essentially every other day. And it worked out well. It's not the same as having all 30 in front of you. The hardest thing for me as a professor was when they're in the room, I know their names by the end of the second week. I know everybody. And if you miss more than one class, you're going to get an invitation to me to tell me what's going on in your life. But now when they wear their masks in class, I couldn't tell. It took me a long time to figure out who was who. But on Zoom, they all have their names in the box, which was very helpful. So I think it depends on the class. For me, I was very comfortable with an inverted format. So students are going to watch video lectures, and then we're going to be very active in problem solving in the room or online, which worked out fine. I think it's like anything. And you parents, I can't imagine doing this in high school. And the gamut of, but I would say it's probably similar to what you see in high school. There's a couple of teachers that I bet that are just killing it, that they're doing a great job and they were great in the classroom and they're great on Zoom. There's probably a couple that maybe weren't so good and are having a tougher time with the transition. That's everywhere. I couldn't imagine being a faculty member with young kids right now, trying to manage teaching remotely and then having like a fourth grader trying to learn right next to me. So I think on the most part, from what I've heard from the students, is that overall it's been a very positive experience, but they all miss being in the room. And I kind of tie it back to the community piece too, Carolyn, because I think it's so easy to overuse that word, but it truly is a community. In the Villanova's is 60% of the classes that are still hybrid or in person. And it was put to us by the administration, the faculty members. If you have whether it was an aging parent or young kids or an underlying health condition, right? It was up to us. If we were going to teach or not in person. And I did not, at least our department, I didn't feel any pressure to have to come back and be in person, but most people did.
That's great. Thanks.
Can I also jump in?
Mhm.
I forgot to mention earlier that I'm also currently pursuing a master's degree myself. So from a student perspective, I was in class last year in March when we suddenly had to go online. And that was my very first online virtual learning experience. And I was very apprehensive about it. But another response from the university was that they have provided a lot of great resources, not only to help faculty members who maybe weren't used to teaching in that format, but also students. And even some of the resources that were available to students in person through our Learning Support Services office, many of them have been redeveloped, and they've added more resources for the virtual learning environment. So in this past year, there's been so much support added to the situation that we're in now. It's affecting really every person within our community, whether you're there as a student or you're there as faculty or you're there as staff. We've all had to deal with this new normal, and we were coming at it from various points of comfortability. So I think that idea that Carolyn was talking about the Caritas commitment, it recognizes that we're all in this together, and for me to be successful means that you will be successful. And that's how we have approached our current situation with dealing with the COVID pandemic. So I'm actually really very proud of that. And the fact that I've gotten to see that from this perspective of a staff member, a parent, and also a student, I can attest to you that it's really true. It's not just flowery words, but you really do feel like we're all in this together and that you're cared for on every level. So I hope that helps.
That's great. We've got a bunch of nuts and boltsy kind of questions that I think I'm just going to kind of run through real quickly that we're asking. There's several questions about when are students going to hear about their admission to the honors program. That is by the end of March. The committee right now is very much in the process of reviewing those applications. Excuse me, I was going to say the beginning of March, the end of February. This committee is very much in the process of getting those decisions made and getting them out posted to your students in their portal. We guarantee 3 consecutive years of housing at Villanova for your first year, your second year, and a third year. Students then can enter into a lottery for senior housing because we do have our new Commons buildings, which if you've seen a virtual tour at Villanova or were lucky enough to see us before, they're across the street from where the main campus is, and there are 6 amazingly beautiful apartment style suite buildings. So that enables us to house all but around 600 of our seniors on campus, and about that many are choosing to live off. Our financial aid awards will be out sometime, I was going to say, in the month of March for our early action students. Our early decision students have already received theirs. And we put most of our resources towards our need-based assistance. We offer very limited merit-based aid. So we really want to make Villanova affordable for families when we admit their students. So in terms of scholarships, the ones that we offer are the ones that you apply for. Actually, today is the deadline for some very specific scholarships, like our St. Martin de Porres grant, the Goizetta Scholarship, the Randazzo Presidential Scholarship. And our general presidential scholarship, the deadline for that was back in December. But you can always look at scholarships.villanova.edu for more information about that. Now, I have a fun question here that just popped up, and we're going to ask everybody to answer this. What is your favorite Villanova tradition?
My favorite Villanova tradition, I absolutely love Parents Weekend, if you want to call that. Oh, no, God, I have so many.
Family Weekend.
Yes. Or can it, I love doing orientation, and it has to be orientation weekend when the kids get dropped off and the parents, you know, go around, and then we have the welcoming ceremony with Father Peter. That's just absolutely amazing.
Don't spoil any surprises, Kelly. Stop right, Kathy, stop right there. Right. Dave, what's yours?
I'm glad you said don't spoil any surprises, because that's probably my favorite tradition too. My favorite trip, besides national championships and basketball, I'm a big fan of the first week of classes. I love that, and since we're talking to seniors and high school's parents, I love the first day of classes when I'm on the first floor of Tollentine Hall, where there's a lot of classrooms, and I get the freshman that hasn't figured out where his classroom is yet. And it's about 2 minutes before the 8:30 start, and a panicked freshman sticks their head in my office. Do you know where 227 is?
And you're there to help them. Right.
Of course I am. Your mom should have taken care of this.
That's Corie.
Well, so I mentioned before that I have a football player and a cheerleader in my family. So I have to say homecoming is my favorite. I love homecoming at Villanova, the whole day, but especially the football games. And another side note, something that just kind of came up, maybe it's not a tradition, but something that happens at Villanova that I just think is hilarious, is that we have this thing that we do at Villanova where we hold doors open for people for incredibly long periods of time. And I'm actually looking forward to getting back onto campus for that, because it's just funny to me. Like sometimes if someone's going into a building in front of you and you can be 10 steps behind, they will hold the door open for you. It's like this unspoken thing that I think happens because we talk about community so much. So we're always thinking who's around us and what's needed. So that's a little quirky thing, but it's noticeable, and I love that. I love that about our community.
Yeah, can I add one more, Carolyn?
Absolutely.
That parents feel uneasy about their freshmen. I love the day of service. When you're on campus at 7 in the morning on a Saturday, and you just see a wave of 18 to 21-year-olds very happily walking across campus in celebration of doing a whole day of work for other people. That's gives you faith in this generation.
That's true. I've got two too, and I was glad that nobody stole mine. My first is Villanova hosts the largest student-run Special Olympics festival in the world. This year will be our 37th year. Every first week in November, we bring about 2,200 Special Olympians onto our campus, and about 4,500 Villanovans, students, faculty, staff, alumni volunteer to do something that weekend, cheering on the athletes, making sandwiches in the Olympic Village, working in the medical services tent. That is a really special time for Villanova. But something I've really loved to do is we have a program called House Calls, and it is the third Wednesday of the first semester for every year. Has anybody else done it?
That's how I met Kathy.
There you go. Cool.
Yes.
Exactly. We get paired up in teams of 2. So obviously Dave and Kathy were probably paired up at some point. And we visit every single first year room on campus. This year, of course, we did it virtually, but normally we go knocking, and we knock on every single door to talk to our students about how they're doing. How are they adjusting? Are they making friends? Did they go to the activities fair? How can we help them in any way? I mean, the stories are sometimes incredibly touching. We've had students who are struggling that we're able to kind of help and point them in the direction to make them feel more comfortable about Villanova. But there's some great stories that come from there. A couple of years ago, one of my colleagues was paired up with the director of facilities services, and a young woman just happened to complain that the vending machine wasn't working in the basement, and she was dying for a pack of Twizzlers. And he made sure that machine was fixed. And in addition to that, he left her a case of Twizzlers. And again, one of my all-time favorite stories was when House Calls first started. What the students don't know, it's the end of the evening, we turn in sheets to the Office of of residents' life about our observations, about, how are the students doing? Do they need any support? Anything that they might need. And the university leadership looks at it the next day. Well, when the university leadership was looking at one of these forms, a young man had said, I can't believe I've been at Villanova for 3 weeks. I haven't met an Augustinian. And that is honestly kind of hard to believe because they're very present on our campus. Even though there's only about 30 Augustinians who are on staff or teach, the retired Augustinians will sit outside often and engage with the students outside the monastery. Well, Father Peter Donahue, our president, was really shocked to hear that and was knocking on that young man's door by 11 o'clock the next morning. So we always tell the students, be careful what you wish for in house calls, because chances are it's going to get fixed and get fixed pretty quickly for you. Let's see if we have another couple questions. Questions are about spending a lot of time in Philadelphia, and someone says that they might be a little uncomfortable with our proximity to the city. So does anybody want to address how our students utilize Philadelphia?
Believe it or not, my daughter has never been down to Philadelphia, and we actually live in the suburbs of Philly. Some of the students will take the train. We do have a train stop right on our campus, and it will take them right into Center City. But really, I don't hear, it's easy to get to. I know a couple of the people will ask about how to get to the airport. Most of the kids then will, either get with a friend or, take, oh God, I'm drawing a blank. It's not a taxi. What is it?
Uber?
Uber. Thank you. One thing I've not done, an Uber down. But I don't really hear the kids saying that, Philadelphia is a place that they're running to on the weekends. There's so much to do around Villanova. And there is so much to do along the main line where Villanova sits that I actually don't hear the kids saying on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, they're headed down to the city. The city, you can get to it, but I don't hear it as a place that the kids are going to in droves.
And we're located 12 miles west of the city in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And I'd say in my experience has been a little different. And I am also kind of somewhat the mother to about 300 Blue Key members. I was going to say that are our tour guides as their advisor. And when you talk to them, they seem to go in maybe once or twice a semester, unless of course they have an internship or an educational opportunity that they're going to kind of take advantage of the city. But they'll go in, they'll take a bus or the train in regular years when the basketball team is playing at the Wells Fargo Center. They'll go to restaurants, they'll go to museums, they'll go to the historic sites. But maybe, like I said, because our train station's on campus, it's very accessible, but usually about once or twice a year, a semester.
Yeah, I think a lot of professors take advantage of Philadelphia. So like when there's a building under construction, one of our alums firms, we'll take a train in, nice, easy, 25 minutes and you're in the city and you can get to that building. I know the 4th hour that you mentioned, Carolyn, we'll do a lot of trips, whether it's the art museum or something else, a cultural or show. My student group that does the STEM work will take the train to get into Philadelphia, depending on which school we're going to. My son, when he was a freshman, was in a service learning community. They did a program called Back on My Feet. And so there'd be Friday morning 5:30 runs with the homeless in Philadelphia, where they would take a van from the university. And so anybody can get van certified so that you can take transportation to someplace. But so it's there if you want to use it. I have no qualms. My daughter has a boyfriend who goes to Temple. And so she's going in about probably every other week. Well, used to be every other weekend, not anymore.
That's great. We have a question about how students select their schedule in the fall and how AP classes are handled, and we'll talk about the IBs as well. But really for first year students, their first semester schedule is going to be pretty programmed for them. After a student decides to enroll in Villanova, in the beginning of May, they'll receive what we call our online freshman booklet, and it's going to ask them a million questions. That's where that housing questionnaire comes from. It says, do you want to be in the band? Are you thinking about pre-med? But it's also going to give you questions based on your academic college about some choices in courses that you have. They'll answer that question, and then the schedules are generated for them. They do get to meet with their advisor over orientation, so they can adjust their schedules if necessary. And for AP and IB credits, since those are usually sent to the university, to the academic dean's offices in July and the beginning of August, their schedules will be adjusted after that. For APs, typically 5s and occasionally a 4 will give a student credit, and usually 4s and occasionally a 3 will give a student placement, but it depends on what course you took in high school and what your major would be at Villanova. And for any IB students out there, 5s or greater on the higher level exams, as I say, will give you credit. We have a question about, I guess, Dave, you mentioned it, and Corie, you mentioned it, about the 5-year academic programs, about how do students apply for those as freshmen? No, you guys don't know that. But how did your students get involved in those?
Well, I think Villanova will inundate us with so many opportunities. The thing that your students have to pay attention to the opportunities. The good news is you're always told multiple times what they are. The 5-year program, I don't think either one of my students were thinking of that going in, but there were opportunities that were put in front of them. And so for like students with AP credit, or maybe you do a summer program, your courses ahead, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can actually take graduate courses a little early. How it works, at least for my kids and then in the engineering school, yeah, there's an application process that you follow. And it's no different than applying to grad schools, except that it's your home university, and you can start taking classes early. But you can take grad classes early if you have room in your schedule anyway, and they can be applied to other universities as well. But it's a typical, application process, except that it's all in-house. I don't know, did I miss anything, Corie?
I think
Nope, the same thing exactly for Isaiah. He didn't know about it. His advisor mentioned it. He went to a informational meeting when he was a sophomore, and had an opportunity to talk to the chair of the department. And they started a rapport, and this person kept in contact with him. And then he started taking, I think, his first graduate level class, his second semester junior year. And he was here every single summer anyway for football camp. So he had time in his schedule, and it just worked out.
I'm going through quickly again, some nuts and boltsy questions that are kind of coming up. Yes, it's been 2 weeks since some of your students have heard, but you haven't received the packet in the mail. Unfortunately, I just imagine that is just part of the mail delay that's going on. We know, we've sent test ones out. We know that they've reached so many families. We'd ask you to be patient for about 2 more weeks. And then if not, you can contact our office at our general email address, and we'll try to get another one out to you as soon as possible. We answered about freshman classes. Oh, Dave, are you an academic advisor, or have you been?
I have been, and I am.
Awesome. Can you talk about that? They want to know how advisors are assigned, how you help them select classes, and what happens if students can't get into classes that they need.
So it varies per college. I'll speak to engineering, and I can speak to a little bit to my kids' experiences. The short answer is don't panic, right? But the way it works is, as an advisor will tell you, all right, let's set up a meeting. And I think any great advice to your students is to be proactive. Introduce yourselves to your advisor when you come to campus. Most colleges have a little orientation where the freshmen get to meet their advisors in person. I always suggest then follow up. If you're in a room with 30 other kids, your advisor is probably not going to remember your name that first day. So swing by their office the first week. But it's very much conversational. I always start with, so how are you doing, right? How's the roommate situation? Are mom and dad surviving without you, right? Those types of things. If you haven't texted them in the last week, please do let them know how much fun you're having. Put them at ease. And then it becomes the academic discussion. How are your classes going? Okay, what are you thinking for next semester? I always ask my students to come with a plan, and then we talk about the plan, and then we have a backup plan. Engineering's a little easier because they don't have a lot of flexibility. But in the liberal arts, I know my daughter was very much a planner of, oh, I'm going to get all of these, requirements done this semester. And then when she went to register, oh, the 2 classes I was going to take are full. So that means, well, you're a sophomore. You don't have to fill these requirements yet. What else do you want to take? Again, my strategy is always, who do you hear from your friends are good professors, right? And then if they happen to satisfy some requirements, great. And the classes will fill, and then some people will drop classes. And so you just have to pay attention. But my kids have never had problems ultimately getting into the classes they want to be in.
That's great. And then as we start to wrap up a little bit, there is a question out here that I think is excellent, is what aren't we asking that we should be asking? And I'll just kind of say on that, like, what advice can we give to them, kind of having been in their shoes, especially if this is their first child going to college? Okay, I'll go. Okay, I'll go while you all think. I think for me, and this is more personal than professional in any level. I think we did a wonderful job of preparing Thomas academically for college. He was ready to go. And we did talk about the social adjustment to college, but we probably should have spent a little bit more time on that, right? A lot of times students have never had to share a room before. They've never lived in that close quarters. They've never had to make friends, some of them, since they were in kindergarten. They've been with the same students. So I think really talking about that emotional adjustment and learning about the college that they're going to is how can we support them? I mean, for Villanova, we have an incredibly active orientation program where students are divided up into about 90 groups of about 20 students, and that becomes their first network at Villanova, and sometimes they're best friends. Fun fact, I was an orientation counselor 2 years at Villanova, and from my senior year group, I have 2 married couples, so you never know who you're gonna meet in orientation. We have an activities and involvement fair the first few weeks of school where they actually go with their orientation group and sign up for things that they're interested in. And that's my other piece of advice. They have to just engage with that community. Let them feel uncomfortable. Try something new, like Corie said. When they go to college, that first 6 weeks is the only time really in their life when they can go up to a complete stranger and just start talking, because that's a normal, really thing to do in an environment. And my last piece of advice is put down that phone.
Yep.
Don't what your friends are doing at other schools. We all know that social media shows something that's not always the right thing, but also that's really hindering them in their connection to the people who are in front of them. That's kind of how they stay attached to home and their friends, but really encourage them to just put that down and put themselves out there. What else?
Add on, Carolyn, that I think it's tough for mom and dad to separate. We're so invested in them and their successes. I think there's going to be failure.
Yep.
And that's really good, because Villanova is a very supportive and nurturing environment. So when they go to the career fair or the activities fair and they say, oh, I want to be in Blue Key, or I want to be in Special Olympics. And wow, those are really competitive volunteer organizations to get into, and they don't get in. That's okay. Because what Carolyn didn't say, there's hundreds of activities for them to be involved with. So maybe you have a rare child who is going to succeed at everything they do. I don't. And those failures are great for them. I serve as a faculty representative on the Student Experience Committee for the Board of Trustees. And for the last 10 years, the last panel, we always bring in students to say, what was the good and the bad? And we give them very little oxygen to talk about the good. And we make them, what were the hard experiences? What were the bad? And it's funny, they'll go back and they'll talk about some of their failures, and then they immediately flip it to say how much they learned from going through the failures. But to a person, they say that it's a very comfortable community to fail in. And I know, your day is only as good as the day of the worst day your children had. So we understand that, but if it's a problem in a classroom, right, you're the advisor to say, if you talk to your professor, right, go talk to your professor, let them know that you studied really hard and that you did this and that, and it's going to make you feel better, and it's going to make the professor say, well, at least this kid cares that they didn't do well on the first quiz, right? And that's okay. Our doors are open to talk to them.
I agree 100%. And I think as a parent of Villanova students who actually worked on campus while they were on campus, one of the hardest things for me to do was not get involved, because up until they became students, college students, that was my role, to advocate for them, to make sure they had what they needed, to make sure they were showing up and giving 100%. And this is difficult to hear, I know, and it was hard for me to do, but this is the time in their life where you have to not do that. And as Dave was saying, give them the space to learn to advocate for themselves, to try things, to stretch themselves a little bit out of their comfort zone, and either succeed or adjust and try something else. What I can tell you is that, like Dave said, the resources are there, and there are people on campus that are paying attention to your children. So we have things set up so that we notice if a student isn't maybe showing up or participating, and we respond to that. Like Carolyn said, the house calls is one way that we do that. We actually go to where they are. Now we do it virtually, but we go to where they are and we ask the question. And it's not just, hey, how you doing? Because they're gonna say, fine. We know how to ask open-ended questions so that they have to say something. And we respond to that because we want them to succeed. So I would say, as a parent, pay attention and, encourage them, but really allow them to put themselves out there and learn to advocate for themselves and try things on their own. That's my best advice.
Good job. Kathy, do you have anything else to add?
I'm going to take another swing at it. It's if they're having difficulty with their roommates in the beginning, encourage them to work it out, encourage them to communicate. The worst thing can happen if they are having some roommate conflict is not talking about it. Tell them to open up. Maybe a situation, I'm going to say something minor, the room is too hot, the room is too cold. Instead of bottling up and coming to you as a parent, have them talk to their roommate. Some of the issues can be resolved, which is just some simple communications. The RAs are there. If your student is having a problem, have them talk to their RA. And then, they can usually work it out. The best advice to do as your student, it's going to be hard from being, from their own bedroom at home to living, with another person. If there's a problem, encourage them to work it out and encourage them to talk it through.
That's great. And I know we're just about at the end of our time, and you've asked about 100 questions tonight, and I know we didn't get them to all. I tried to kind of combine them as best as I can, and I'm sure my colleagues won't mind me saying this, but at Villanova, everybody's email address is our first name dot our last name at villanova.edu. So if you just take a screenshot of us right now or write down our names quickly, I know any of us would be happy to answer your questions. I know, Dave, there were a couple particular specific ones for you. I'm going to see if I can get those names to you. So please feel free to reach out to us. If you happen to miss that, you can always email go2vu@villanova.edu. Ask for me, I was going to say, and we're happy to help. And I'd also like to thank my colleague Matt and my colleague Allie, who've been behind the scenes typing furiously some answers as well. So I wish you all the best of luck with this college search process. I know what an anxious but really exciting time this can be for all you. And I hope you could all feel how much we love this place. We know we're not perfect, but we've heard Dr. Lafferty, who used to be our university vice president, say, but we're pretty splendid. And you know that this is really a place where we do care for each other. There is that community word, which can be overused, but it's very much the heart of who we are. So please feel free to reach out with us, and congratulations again to you and to your children. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.